Rogue Logic. This is the way.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rogue Logic. If you could, please like, subscribe, and of course hit notifications so you know when I have new content. I really would appreciate it. Share the videos, and please comment below whether it be positive or negative. I would like to hear your thoughts. I did have something else planned, but it was brought to my attention about the creation of what is referred to as Cop City down in Atlanta, Georgia. And so the first thing I'd like to do is let's find out what exactly this is. A couple different perspectives as to where the motivation for this is coming from, and then later in the video I will give what I've gotten from my research and what my opinions are. So what is Cop City? This has now been called several different things by several people depending on where they stand on the necessity of having this, as well as people who don't believe this should be happening at all. So we've got it, an Atlanta Police Training Center, Public Safety Training Center, and then there's the other perspective that this is a militarization facility for police to train in urban warfare. Now, if you look at what's going on, it certainly seems like the latter to me, but I'm going to first make sure that we do a little research and find out exactly what is going on here. And I thought a good place to start for that would be the crime rate in Atlanta, Georgia, and to see what the motivator is. So I'm going to show you something on that information. Now, one of the important aspects of, I think, looking into what is Cop City would be first to just do a little bit of research about Atlanta and the crime rates there. So I will put this down in the description below. This is neighborhoodscout.com. And it's got this graph right here that, as you can see, shows you the most dangerous places in Atlanta down to the safest. And then we'll move on down here. This is interesting because this will give us an idea about where Atlanta stands as far as the rest of the United States in both violent crime and robbery and things of that nature. So let's see, the crime rate per 1,000 residents, 9.51. That's violent crime. Property crime, 40.11, and total 49.62. Violent crime in Atlanta comparatively to the rest of Georgia is significantly higher, as you can see by the graph, but that is not unusual for urban areas compared to rural areas. So chances of becoming victim of a violent crime in Atlanta are 1 in 105, and in Georgia in general it's 1 in 254. So I'm not going to go too long with this. You can check this out yourself. But this has the statistics and shows you what I believe would be one of, now here we have Atlanta crimes per square mile, and obviously that's a much more significant number than Georgia in general. But, I'm trying to find out before I make any of my own opinions on this, what are the actual motivations for having this Cop City, as it's being called, in Atlanta. All right, so that was a little bit of the background on what is going on with crime in the Atlanta, Georgia vicinity. And next, I have a little clip here on pretty much the people opposed to them building this facility due to a number of reasons. One being the environmental impact that it's going to have. Number two, there is this point of view that this is not a typical training center for police, but is much more of a militarization of the police, and with the specific intention to come down hard, basically, on the citizens of Atlanta in an urban warfare style. So I'm going to show you a little bit of this and take a look at it from that perspective. All right, so I did want to present the viewpoint from the different perspectives before I make my own insinuations about what I believe is going on here. This is from Stop Cop City. I will again put that in the description below, and they pretty much are giving you an idea. These statistics are correct, the ones on here. I had been doing a little research. It's over 380 acres of forested land. It's going to have a huge corporate funding, which is, in my opinion, I will put this in right here, a red flag right away. And then I believe from what I read, the city of Atlanta will be paying $1 million a year over 30 years, and that's taxpayer dollars. And there's zero accountability to the community. So from here, we're going to see that the clear idea here, I'm going to highlight this for you, is, okay, Cop City is not just a controversial training center. It is a war base where police will learn military-like maneuvers to kill black people and control our bodies and movements. All right, the facility includes shooting ranges, plans for bomb testing, and will practice tear gas deployment. They are practicing how to make sure poor and working class people stay in line. So when the people kill us in the streets again, like they did to Rashard Brooks in 2020, I will put a link to that as well below. They can control our protests and community response to how they continually murder our people. So there you have it. That is the, now they do have, I'd like to highlight that, make sure that you can see that right here, that here is the proposed facility picture. And so this is coming from the community who is definitely against having the funding of this happen. All right, so next, what I'd really like to do, and this is where you really find the diverse issue here and why this is so divisive, because the next place that I'm going to go to and show you a little bit of the other perspective of what this is the Atlanta Police Foundation's actual website. So I'm just going to let you take a look at that, and you can get what you believe out of this as far as what they're proposing. All right, now the second perspective, of course, is quite different here. And this is directly from the Atlanta Police Foundation's website. All right, so what we have here is they're describing this as the new Atlanta Public Safety Training Center will reimagine law enforcement training and police, fire, rescue, community engagement. All right, so what they're claiming here from their point of view, it's going to improve morale, retention, recruitment, and training for the police professionals that, let's see, and will motivate the most highly committed to careers in law enforcement. set a national standard. Again, I'm going to put this in the description below so you can look at this for yourself. Embrace police reform and cultural sensitivity through an extensive training and education partnership with the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. Now that I'm going to check on, I'm going to highlight that right here, and I'm going to check on the accuracy of that statement. And it'll welcome the community to its public spaces. Okay. So that was from the 2 points of view. So lastly, as far as putting some other information here that you can review before I go on to my own opinion, the National Center for Civil and Human Rights is located in Atlanta. And from what I read off of the website for the Atlanta Police Foundation, they are going to be giving the National Center for Civil and Human Rights, they are going to be giving police training as far as diversity and the proper treatment of treating people humanely. So that is the plan. So again, I'm going to let you look at that, and then I will get back to my opinion. Just quickly, I'd like to show this website as well. This is the actual website of the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. It is located in Georgia, and as far as I can see, that from what I've been able to research, they will be involved in having training for law enforcement and diversity, equity, and inclusion experiences for them in the workplace. Now, that is the plan. Again, I hope this is the case because as of right now, this is March 7th, 2023. Plans to go forward with the building of Cop City are in place. All right, so that was the research and data section of what I wanted to say about this. And now there are 2 points that I'd like to make and see what all of you think. And please let me know in the comments below what your viewpoints are. So I'm gonna start at the first place that I think was the key. Well, not I think, it was the key of the slow but sure militarization of the police departments around the country. And that began in the 1990s with the war on drugs by President Reagan. And that was the first place where Congress passed the law that allowed military surplus equipment to be supplied to police departments. So the first time is the reasoning behind it is that the drugs in the United States are out of control, and rather than have police departments renew their facilities or get different training specialized for more than likely maybe the treatment centers that could have been created for people who had drug problems that were arguably basically created by by our own government, but that's another story and another rabbit hole that I'm not going to go down right now. It was the 1033 program, and that pretty much what started the ball rolling with legitimizing police being in military equipment in the United States. Now, this is something I remember the first time for me that I saw something of that nature. I was quite young. My parents had, I believe, we were going on a family vacation to Jamaica. And, you know, as I think I was in my early teens, maybe 12 years old, I'm not sure. And I really didn't understand at that point. I didn't have that really as an interest. You know, I had only heard things about the places on the planet that were, you know, deemed by a child to be scary. You know, at that point there was the Cold War, the Soviet Union, all these things were what you expected, that sort of thing. So as soon as you step off of the resort in Jamaica, you've got people walking around, the police there with highly, powerful machine guns, and it just, and they look like military police from something that you wouldn't expect. So I got exposed to that, and it's, if you come from the United States, where this is simply not something that you see all the time, it can be bizarre, to say the least. So at any rate, moving forward in time, of course, the next step in the militarization of the police, although it was slowly happening over those years, was, of course, 9/11. And once the Patriot Act was put into law, now you have another foothold for the police to, of course, we had to deal with the threat of terrorism. Now, we all know where this went, and this led to a whole war with weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, arguably many lives lost that didn't need to be. But the point being is, it gave yet another small notch to the government, to police departments, to be able to do things that they were not able to do prior to that. Basically, violating your Fourth Amendment rights, and, search and seizure without, all they had to do is say they suspect that you're a terrorist. So then we can move forward again, and I think the place where I would probably go next is when there was some pushback during President Obama's administration, because that, I believe, if I remember correctly, was in Flint, Michigan. I have it here, and I want to look so I don't... no, I'm sorry. This was Ferguson, Missouri in 2014. And an unarmed black man was shot by the police, and they were using military equipment for crowd control. So this got national attention. And after that happened in 2015, President Obama pretty much, let's see, there had to be some justification for how and why these this military equipment was needed or necessary for each police department. So what are we talking about? Really, what we're talking about here is oversight. Is there a reason for this? Is this just being done to make us lose a little bit more of our freedom a little bit at a time? So, he had a quote here at the time: "We've seen how militarized gear can sometimes give people a feeling like there's an occupying force." Yeah, it certainly can. And some equipment made for the battlefield, President Obama went on to say, is not appropriate for local police departments. No, it isn't. All right, so that being said, that was a little bit of, got a little bit of a pullback, but, and I think you knew I was getting around to this.
The orange idiot strikes again.
Well, I think we all know that there's a lot of truth to this issue. So once the 2016 election, I rue the day that happened. Once that had happened, now we saw, and this is just factual information that you can, I encourage you to look up. Trump was going to do everything in his power to reverse everything President Obama did, and we all know why. And that's what he was going to do. It didn't matter what the policy. So, with some things it did matter, because of course there were things he wanted to implement for his base and his rise to his fascist regime, basically. So immediately he signed an executive order and undid all of that. So we're right back to square one as of the Trump presidency. And now we're, police departments have whatever they want, free reign. And once again, and then of course some of the cover that is used as a talking point is, oh, they want to defund the police. All the left want to do is have no police. Well, here's something interesting that I don't think people think about a lot of times. Yeah, it would be nice to have no police. I mean, isn't that a goal that we'd like to get to? Wouldn't we like the police to become more and more unnecessary as our society progresses? Do I think that we're there right now? No, of course I don't. No one's talking about defunding them except maybe a few loudest voices on the far, far left that just have decided, we can do everything without them. Even I, who am no friend to police in the sense that I do believe that severe police reform is necessary across the nation. But that being said, I certainly understand that rational people, which I hope I can include myself in that department.
You're not a nutter.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Would know that you have to have some type of authority that is better trained and has some type of psychological, admission testing before they can be let loose on the public, as they are most of the time. So that's the one point that I wanted to make about the history of what's going on here and how something like a cop city gets even proposed or voted in, which the actual town or the city council in Atlanta, I believe the vote was overwhelmingly in favor of doing this. So, there you have it. That's the issue. Now, let me take a quick break. So the second point that I wanted to make was more of the personal point of the people in Atlanta, and what their reasoning here is, not just from the point of view of the history of militarization of the police, but also what has really transpired. So as the protests have continued, back in January, there were many tents and people set up on the grounds trying to stop to stop the building of this facility going through. And let me just make sure that I say this right. A young man, 26 years old, Tortuguita, was, I guess they called him Tort. He was killed by the police. Now, I've researched as much as I could so far. The varying accounts of this are everything from the police went into the tent and basically just shot him dead. And then, of course, their viewpoint from this is that he fired at a police officer. There is a police officer who did go to the hospital with, I guess, non-life-threatening injuries. And so it was self-defense. No, excuse me, but of course, there are over 13 bullet holes in this guy. And, I'm not going to make a statement that I can't back up. So, do I know that he did not fire a shot at the police officer? No, I do not know that 100%. What I do know is that these protesters, now it did get violent afterwards, but when this happened to him, this was not something going on that was a violent protest. This was people in their tents and basically squatting there, trying to maintain a presence so that they couldn't proceed with the plans to go forward with the building of the facility. So it looks suspicious to me, and of course, from what I've been able to investigate here in several different sources, I don't believe that he was shot by someone who was acting in self-defense. But I don't know that for sure, so we'll leave that alone. This is what exasperated a lot of the protests, which did turn violent. And here's the other issue that I have with the whole thing. So the city council voted this in. They're saying that this is necessary. And from what I've read, many of the people opposed to this have said that they tried everything. They tried to go different routes other than protesting and got nowhere. So the difficult part about that is that, you know, when the, quote, powers that be, as you could say, decide to do something and that's it, they're going to do it. And it just seems that a great number of the people who are going to be the most affected by this are the people who don't want this happening. So it led to current protests, and here's where I have a problem with what's going on. Now, I myself have protested a couple times in my life. It is the right that we have as citizens of the United States of America. Right now, we still have that right to a peaceful protest. So before anyone says, okay, but they weren't peaceful, and no, they weren't. They turned violent. There was throwing of rocks, throwing of Molotov cocktails, and I believe one of the buildings was burned down. Okay, so destruction of private property, trespassing, possibly assault charges. These are all things that, you know, you take a risk in bringing this upon yourself if you're protesting and you decide that you're not going to have a peaceful protest and get dragged away and put in cuffs and thrown in jail for a night. That being said, the problem now is that many of these people are being charged with domestic terrorism. This can lead to penalties of up to 35 years in prison. Now, this is where I think the main issue is, and where everything that I've been talking about in this video is leading. This is the kind of authoritative response that is becoming more and more normalized now in the United States. And really, people are haphazardly, oh, yes, good, yes, let's go, this is great. I'm for this. We've got to be tougher on crime. Crime is going rampant through the cities. Now, yes, there are crime in the cities, and I hate to tell you, there was crime in the city during the Fat Orange Guy's presidency, if you could call it that. More like his tour of Carnival of Idiocy. But at any rate, and there are crimes in urban areas. Now, is there a problem with, you know, as much as I said, I've never said anything about defunding police stations completely, but I certainly don't think that they need to be militarized. On the other hand, there are urban areas that are having this new legislation, or actually, I don't even know if it is. I think it's more lack of acting, where they've just decided that, you know, there is no penalty for grand theft and whatnot. Now, that's not the right way to go either, but what happens here is reactionary thought and the loss of critical thinking. So this is exactly how and what the fascists want and how they're going to take control. And then they're coming for you afterwards. And you know why I can say you and everybody who's watching this? Because that's how fascism works. It may seem to you right now that, oh, well, we're going to be doing something about violent criminals, and we're going to be doing something about, you know, whatever marginalized minority or group that you want to put into that bracket. But eventually, the whole the fascism in general doesn't work if anybody has a say. So bottom line, of what my opinion is on all of this is that they have a big problem down here. It's obviously not popular for the people, as I said, who are going to be most affected by this. And my question is, and I think this is the most important one, is a facility of this nature going to help with the drop in violent crime, with police brutality, with the way citizens and police are able to interact? In my opinion, no, it isn't. Okay, now you can have a burn building that they say is for fire department's use and practice and training too. Okay, that's fine. I find no issue with that whatsoever. But the training for the police to have to do urban warfare is really only useful for two things. And the first one of those things is going against the country's own citizens. That's what that's for. That is so that the police can become, so the country can become a military state, and as soon as anything is going on, you have military type troops, because that's what they'll be. That's what it is. When you've got body armor and tanks and high-powered, ammunition for your rifles and who knows what else, then now you're going into something as pretty much an oppressor. The second reason that you would have any type of urban warfare training is if something would ever happen on our own ground here, on U.S. ground, and we were invaded by an outside force. Now, I'm not saying that's not possible. In fact, I've brought it up other times in other videos that the disturbing reality is I don't find it probable, because here's one thing that is true about our nation being so gun crazy. I mean, anybody who's going to attack this country has got to realize that once you get past the fact that we have a nuclear arsenal that can wipe everyone off the face of the earth, once you get past that we have the most powerful military in the world, you also have more guns per citizen. I think I don't remember the exact number, so I'm not going to say, but you're going to have to deal with a population that's heavily armed. So do I think that we're on the verge of having a military invasion of the United States? No, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Here's the issue, though. That's not what they're preparing for. Okay, so as we've seen the rise in authoritative type thinking and policies and laws being passed since Trump was in office, you see all of these things happening over time. Now, I'm going to wrap things up now because this is going to be a really long video, and boy, I hope it's interesting enough, because if not, nobody's going to make it to the end. But you're seeing things happen that happen with fascism, and it doesn't happen overnight. So I'm not going to go through it always, over and over and over, but the scapegoating, the finding a group to blame, the heavy-duty nationalism, the return to a theocracy, which is something that we aren't, and we're not supposed to be. The signs are all there. Heavy military, a lot of news propaganda, telling us that the news agencies are the enemy of the people, journalists are no good, banning books. Starting to sound familiar? Yeah, really way too familiar. So with that, I hope everyone takes that opportunity that I mentioned. Please comment below. Please like and subscribe, and please hit notifications so you know when I have new material. And I just hope everyone has a great Tuesday evening. Be kind to one another whenever you can. I think it's more important that we try to remember that now than it ever has been. And always be kind to animals. They need us as their voice. And wow, they don't do any of this shit that we do they? So until later, peace, everybody.